This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Welcome to Black and Privileged in America podcast, Power, Love, and Money, conversations relevant to Black thriving. I'm your host, Abena Sankofa. Today, I want to talk to you and really just slow things down a bit and cover a moment that we are living in, socially, politically, and culturally, and why the work that I do at Sankofa Literary and Empowerment Group, Culture Keeper Books and Things Reading Room, and the Imhotep Report is not just relevant, it's necessary. I'm not going to give you a history lecture today. I could, but I won't. I am going to hold a mirror up to this moment, this present moment, because if we don't name it, we can't navigate it. And if we can't navigate it, we risk being swept away by it. We're living in a time where multiple crises are colliding. In Gaza, entire neighborhoods have been reduced to rubble. Civilians are trapped under siege, and the global community's response swings between outrage and silence. In Sudan, millions have been displaced in the greatest humanitarian disaster, and that barely pierces the news cycle, even as people starve, flee, and fight for survival. Here in the United States, our president somehow remains a viable political figure despite his open hostility toward truth, justice, and democracy. Political leaders across the spectrum are capitulating, trading courage for convenience, bending to power instead of confronting it. And hovering over all of this is the crumbling of empiricism itself, the very idea that facts, evidence, and verifiable truth are the basis for public life. We are living in a time when conspiracy theories are given equal footing with research, when alternative facts aren't just a joke, but an actual political strategy. Add to this the speed of technology, the technological change. AI decides who gets a job interview. Algorithms decide whose face is suspicious. Data mining that knows more about your habits than you do. And then there's the cultural landscape. Black creativity still shaping global trends in music, language, fashion, and food, while the economic benefits of that creativity continue to flow away from our communities. We are in a moment where we're both highly visible and deeply misunderstood. Our influence is undeniable, but the systems that control policy, economics, and narrative still resist our full participation. And layered on top of that, as if that's not enough, is a cultural fatigue, the kind that comes from being always on defense while still being expected to create, to love, to build. This moment isn't only about politics. It's also about our culture. It's about how power operates, who holds it, how it's maintained, and how it's disguised. We see voter suppression dressed up as election integrity. We see wealth gaps widen under the banner of free markets. We see anti-Blackness shapeshift, sometimes overt, sometimes polite and professional, but always structural. And yet, this is also a time of possibility. Black entrepreneurs, educators, artists, and thinkers, we are building our own platforms, telling our own stories, connecting across borders in ways that our ancestors could only dream about. But possibility is not enough. We need infrastructure. We need spaces where we can think critically together, plan strategically, and remember that we are part of a global African story, past, present, and future. That's where Sankofa Literary and Empowerment Group comes in. Sankofa is more than a symbol, it's a principle. Go back and get it. Retrieve the wisdom, the lessons, the beauty, and yes, the cautionary tales of our past, and use them to shape our future. Sankofa Literary Empowerment Group isn't just a book club. I mean, we started that way, but it's become a literacy incubator, a literary incubator, a place where we sharpen our minds, expand our language, and connect ideas across generations. We are not just reading books, we're building a cultural and intellectual muscle that cannot be legislated away or quietly erased. Literacy is tied to liberation. We know that. The ability to read the world, not just the words on a page, is what keeps us from being manipulated, erased, and bought off. In a time when truth itself is being contested, Sankofa Literary and Empowerment Group is a safeguard. And I can't talk about that work without talking about Culture Keeper Books and Things Reading Room. This is a place, yes, where books live, but it's a curated space where our stories can breathe. In a time when we see the struggle across the world and the influence of corruption and distortion and leaders capitulating instead of confronting injustice and the collapse of empiricism, we need spaces like these that recenter us in reality and in who we are to each other. Culture Keeper Books and Things Reading Room is that kind of space. It's where we can hold difficult truths without the distortion, put our hands on books that aren't being removed from shelves, and ground our conversation in our cultural memory, not in clickbait or partisan spin. It's a room for study, for critical thinking, for cross-generational dialogue that builds both literacy and discernment. Because, again, it's not about just reading the page, it's about reading the world and recognizing when what you're being fed is not true. When you step into Culture Keeper Books and Things Reading Room, you step into a living archive. You're surrounded by the voices of those who navigated moments like this before, and you're invited to add your voice to that lineage. Bring your brick. Now, Black and Privileged in America podcast was born out of the understanding that our conversations about Black life just can't be reactive. We can't only talk about ourselves in the context of harm or resistance. We have to talk about the full range of our humanity, including the ways we build wealth, nurture love, and hold power. This podcast is an archive of those conversations. It's a refusal to let our story be flattened. This podcast is a place where you'll hear from me, from other thought leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and everyday people whose wisdom is as rich as any policy paper. In 20, 30, 50 years, I hope people look back on our conversations here and hear the pulse of our time. I hope they hear what matters, what we're building, what we're wrestling with, what we're moving toward. Now, the Imhotep Report, that's my newest venture. This is where we stretch out even more. It's a Substack platform and a place for long-form thought, essays that don't have to fit into a soundbite, analysis that connects the dots between local and global Black movements, and commentary that centers an Africana worldview. The name is intentional. Imhotep, yes, my last name, but also the African polymath, builder, healer, thinker. That's the level of multidimensional thinking we need right now. Thinking that refuses to be siloed, that draws from the deep well of Black intellectual tradition, and that applies to our current reality. The Imhotep Report is where we step back from the noise and study the architecture of power. You can't dismantle a structure you don't understand. And you can't build a new one without a blueprint. So if it's Sankofa Literary and Empowerment Group, Culture Keeper Books and Things Reading Room, this podcast, or the Imhotep Report, the through line is the same. We are building intellectual, cultural, and narrative power for Black people. We are refusing to be erased. We are refusing to be misrepresented. We are documenting our now while preparing for our next. In a time when the social, political, and cultural landscape is shifting faster than most people can keep up, we are choosing to move deliberately, to think before we react, to strategize before we act, to root ourselves in history as we innovate. So, as we move closer and move deeper into this season 5 and into this season of change, I need you to remember that you have a role to play. Contribute your voice, your skills, your resources. Join in these conversations. If not mine, join in someone's conversations. Bring someone else into the circle. Help ensure that our stories and our ideas and our visions remain in our hands. The work we're doing isn't just about surviving this moment. It's about how we shape the next one. And if we do it well, we will have built something lasting, something our children and grandchildren can inherit, not just remember. This is Black and Privileged in America podcast.